it's really nice to see you. I'm Algimantas Kvecys, chairman of Lithuanian Skeptic Association. And today we will talk about critical thinking. So the topic is critical thinking really available to everyone? Psychological resilience and social politics. Sadly, Gražina will not be able to participate due to her health. So that's the panelists, and I will introduce them. Here's Pontus Böckman. He's a chairman of ECSO, the European Council of Skeptical Organizations. Here is Ramunė Dirvanskienė, assistant professor of sociology at Vytautas Magnus University. I am reading Gražina's, sorry. Associate professor at Vilnius University Psychology Institute. Here is Brigita Gaitanži, educational scientist, founder and lecturer at Platform for Non-Formal Science Education for Adults and the Promotion of Critical Thinking. And here is Kostas Gaitanži, artist, associate professor with research interests in epistemology, philosophy of science, military and totalitarian propaganda. So I will refer to you as a power couple in this panel. Critical thinking everywhere. Everyone needs to be good critical thinker, but is it really available for everyone, and in what terms? So that's what we will be talking about. So just a short introduction. Britannica dictionary describes critical thinking as educational theory, mode of cognition using deliberate reasoning and impartial scrutiny of information to arrive at possible solution or a problem. So it involves such keywords as breaking down a problem, reveal its underlying logic or assumptions, recognize and account for one's own biases in judgment, experience and collect assets, relevant evidence, adjust and reevaluate one's own thinking. Ramunė, critical thinking as a cognition mode in some sense sounds like a very alien activity. Or are humans wired for such a demanding cognition mode? What do you think?
No. It's what you've listed is a list of very high-level cognitive functions that are difficult to perform. And it takes a lot of training to learn how to do that. So to be able to analyze, to plan, to decide, to evaluate, and at the same time to self-monitor if you're doing it correctly, and to compare what you're doing now with what other people are doing or what you've done in the past. So it's very complicated. It requires high-level cognitive skills, and that's not innate. That's something that you have to learn step by step and train how to do it.
Anyone want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can only agree that critical thinking is very hard. It's not natural, as you say. We would rather take quick decisions based on our feelings, and feelings are fine, but we should be aware that sometimes our feelings lead us astray. So rational thinking, critical thinking is something that needs to be trained.
Well...
Is it working? Try it. Pontus?
Sorry. Yes, I would tend to agree with previous speakers, as the critical thinking is something that, like a higher mode of a human intellectual activity, it requires some basic skills of thinking, not like a very practical thinking, not like everyday thinking, but much more connected with theoretical knowledge. And if we take this question historically, we have to say that for the most part of human history, critical thinking was a very rare exception from the common rule.
Pontus, maybe a question for you, and everyone can elaborate on top perfectly. Critical thinking, psychological resilience, and social politics. How would you layer, prioritize, and merge these three domains to make sense of the interplay?
How long do I have? So, no, I think we should realize that critical thinking is very beneficial for the individual. There are studies to clearly show that people who have been trained in critical thinking, they are more successful in academia, they are more creative, and they make for good citizens, if you will. So also from a society's point of view, we want people to be good critical thinkers, because that drives a community ahead. The society benefits from that. But it's it's hard to do it, so we need training.
Ramunė, what do you think about these interplays and how psychological resilience plays the role? Can people be good thinkers when their situations psychologically are very uncertain? What do you think?
First of all, I'll add my bit to the previous question. So when we talk about critical thinking, the research and the literature splits into two main domains. First, critical thinking as a cognitive skill that we've presented and we agreed that it needs to be developed. Second, in order to analyze and evaluate, you need to have something to analyze and evaluate. So it depends on knowledge. To be able to evaluate critically, you need to have information to compare. So another part of the literature, of the scientific field, targets what theories are we more inclined to believe. So we more tend to believe theories about things that we don't know, about foreign lands, foreign cultures. For us, it would be more difficult to believe a theory about something that happens in Lithuania, because we have a lot of knowledge of how things happen in Lithuania, and we have a lot of concrete knowledge. Whereas what happens in far, far away countries, we think about events there. We have many holes in our thinking and our knowledge, and we think more in abstract terms about what's happening there. So our thinking abilities are more loopy, and we tend to believe more various theories about things that we know less about. So when we talk about critical thinking and societies, etc., so it's not only about the skill, it's also about knowledge. And if you want to make me more resistant to some kind of theories, I need to know more about them. If you want me to be more resistant to theories about some cultural group, I need to have more knowledge about the cultural group so that I wouldn't believe those theories. Your second question was about emotional state. So as we agreed in the beginning, it's very hard to think critically. And when is it hard for us to do difficult things? When we're tired, when we're stressed, when we're emotionally aroused. Then we want things to be simple and quick. So if there's an opportunity to go for a simpler answer, we switch to it when we are in aroused state. We tend to believe our thinking tends to go into black or white. We are not that successful in seeing the gray areas. It's harder for us to analyze, to compare, and we talked before that when societies undergo some stressful events, they are more prone to cognitive biases, and they are more than prone to black or white thinking, and they are then more prone to believe all sorts of falsehoods.
Kostas, you are interested in propaganda technologies and elaborating on what Ramunė said, how that unstable situation, psychological or socio-economical, can influence and maybe reignite, let's say, as an example, Russian propaganda tactics and how that interplay is being carried out.
Well, okay. Now it works. Okay, thank you. Yes, I just forgot how to use it. Maybe I make it too rarely. Okay, that's. I think it is a quite good question because the propaganda, especially visual propaganda, was one of the main interest of my research and of some courses I teach in university or in international university networks. So the problem is like that this requirement for critical thinking is a relatively new phenomenon because until the end of 20th century, critical thinking wasn't something what was usually expected from a citizen, from making a good citizen. Because in most cases the state had more or less monopoly to the main political discourse. And it could be especially clearly seen in totalitarian communities, but even in democratic communities in cases of world wars. The propaganda campaign wasn't targeted to people with critical thinking. It was like that that is not necessary to be critical thinker to make a good citizen. And what maybe changed in last decades and why these critical thinking skills had become so important, so significant, is that there's no more monopoly on political discourses. And that truth, yes, we have this concept of post-truth and so on, That's maybe the most a clear example that in Orwell's book 1984, the government tried to hide the truth, to falsificate it all the time, and to propose the only one true version of this truth, so-called. But for now we have millions of discourses, and that, like Russian propaganda works, like then they shot down this Malaysia and Boeing, they didn't say that's one version. It's they created lots of them, and they were completely contradictory, but they just filled these social medias with these different discourses, narratives, and in this case it's a very big problem to find the truth in this pile of garbage. So for now I think that this critical thinking, it has becoming a very central part of civil resilience, psychological resilience, and to still exist as a autonomous human person.
Okay, so we all agreed that's important, but Brigita, I want to ask, what is the current state of critical thinking education? Because we are educating school children, we are educating adults, there are a lot of programs, a lot of brought from Scandinavia, and funding programs, and programs are being copied, tools, etc. But what is the state of that education here in Lithuania now?
Aš kalbėsiu lietuviškai, mane išversite. Tai turbūt pirmiausia, tai mes turime problemą tokią, kad mums trūksta kritinio mąstymo išmanančių arba suprantančių mokytojų. Sistema yra tokia, kada mes galime ugdyti, kai mes patys suprantame.
So briefly, it's that the biggest problem in Lithuanian educational system is the lack of critical thinking skills in teachers, because most of them have big problems in this area.
Mes negalime sakyti, kad visi mokytojai nesupranta, kas yra kritinis mąstymas arba kaip ugdyti kritinį mąstymą vaikuose. Tai nėra absoliuti tiesa, bet mes visai nesenai matėme prieš kelis metus toksai buvo mitingas maršistų, kai visus mokytojus kvietė ir jie nežiūrėjo, kur eina, ko eina ir visiškai net nesuvokė, bet jie ėjo prieš kažką kovoti.
Surely we shouldn't generalize like every one of Lithuanian teachers lacks this critical thinking, but just a few years ago we had quite a good example of so-called Marxists who were marching for like family values and so on, and most of teachers were sharing this stuff in social medias without questioning what is this, who are these peoples, and what they are fighting for.
Kaip to istorija parodė, ten buvo ir žmonių teisiamų, bet mokytojai ten buvo. Tai tokiu atveju kalbėti su mokytojais apie kritinį mąstymą pirmiausia reikėtų universitete, kai mes mokome mokytojus.
So in this case, we should begin this conversation from the educational, higher educational system for a teacher, for ecological education.
Nes pirmiausia, mokytojai turi suprasti ir kontekstą mokymo. Labai dažnai išmokstama dalyko, bet kodėl dalykas skirtas kam ir kokiame plačiame kontekste tai turi būti. Tame ir atsiranda kritinis mąstymas, kam tai reikalingo, kodėl, kokios tai yra sąsajos su kuo ir būti atviram naujoms idėjoms.
So that could be like a central problem because I just forgot. Sorry, it was a quite long sentence, so I just forgot the beginning of it. Maybe we should translate by shorter pieces.
So one of the key ingredients is reflectiveness and reflecting on what you are saying. You know, the microphone is popping up. Okay, so I get the gist that critical thinking education should start at the university for the teachers which are implementing these programs, tools and curriculum into the actual lectures, into that content, either that history, how it's called?
I would say that it's like a contextual more learning. Yes, it's like
it should be included in all the topics, not as a separate.
Yes.
So you want to elaborate on that, Pontus? Sure.
Yes, so I'm from Sweden, and I've been looking into the teacher situation in Sweden and education that you get in university, and on paper it all looks good. I think also in lower classes you are supposed to embed critical thinking into every subject on every level. Really, that's what it says in the plan for educating children, and teachers are learning this at university. However, I feel that the tools that they are given are not good enough. it's sweeping statements that make sure that critical thinking is always part of the curriculum. But how? Where are the tools? What are the exercises you can do? Some teachers do this very, very well because they're burning for it, or they have this skill to do it. Other teachers, they just skim over it because they don't know really how to do this. But I think it is important. Critical thinking teaching needs to start. I think you can start even before school. You know, good parents teach your kids not to trust everything that happens, or at least to see that there are different ways of looking at things, because that fosters creativity, good thinking, and so it's hard to do. But I agree, we need to start with the teachers. We also need to make sure that the school plans are fully developed to help the teachers to do this, to deliver critical thinking learning.
Ramunė, I want your insight from university. Is the scientific method applied in university in some sense equal to critical thinking? And how do you see critical thinking agenda implemented at the university curriculum?
There are many parallels. The scientific method, for those who don't know, is the way you approach how you build an understanding of what you're observing. So it starts from raising a hypothesis, then doing the testing, then formulating a theory, then testing the theory. So this kind of circle, and checking if what you're thinking, if that's really happening. Now, regarding critical thinking, the way that I understand it is not jumping to conclusions too fast. In preparation for this talk, I checked a couple of studies into how can we screen for people who will be more prone to cognitive biases or who have lower skills of critical thinking, and the theorists, they claim that we can identify them because they tend to collect less evidence before making a decision. So by doing simple tasks such as pick in the bag, there's blue balls and red balls, and you need to decide which color balls there are more, and you pick one ball, you pick second, and the more balls you pick before making a decision, the better your decision is. But some people, after picking one or two balls, they end up with a decision, it's red or it's blue, etc. So those people who jump to conclusions faster with fewer observations, they are more prone to believing many fallacies, and they have lower level of critical thinking. So first is checking, and then there was something else that I wanted to say, but I most likely forgot. So forgetting is one trait that we do.
It's okay. So as I see, all the panelists agree that critical thinking education is possible, yeah? Because there are some theories that it's highly unlikely to become a critical thinker at all. There are some research which suggests that it's possible, but there are some skeptics, total skeptics about that. Pontus, this is where I will roast your country a little bit, maybe, I don't know. So I will tell a myth, and you will debunk it or not, I don't know. So there is a conception that Nordic countries, especially Norway, have vast natural resources which are used to fuel welfare or modern social state, advanced social politics. In Lithuania it would be gerovės valstybė. What do you think? Does it have anything to do that Nordic countries have way better results compared to Lithuanian in critical thinking measures in all demographics, according to PISA research results? Is that conception true about Nordic countries? And is there a tie between those things which I mentioned?
Well, I think we should be careful. I think it has something to do with it, because prosperity, in a prosperous country, you can afford to do things that are a bit of a luxury, like critical thinking, right? But I don't think, as a skeptic, I also know we should not be too quick to attribute a whole phenomena to only one thing. I think there are many factors here, and I don't know, but I can speculate a little bit that I know that the monarchies in Sweden and Norway, they are old, but they have traditionally been rather weak, which means that people have, for hundreds of years, been able to criticize the central powers. It has not, well, sometimes you got punished, but it's not like in other countries. And I think that's part of it as well, because that has fostered a culture where it's not forbidden to question things. And that is very important as well. But yeah, I guess it helps to have a lot of money, or forests, or water, or oil in Norway. Of course, it helps when you want to have a prosperous society. But I think there are a number of countries in the world, I won't try to give examples, that have big natural resources, but still have been very hard dictatorships, autocratic societies where you are not allowed to criticize the government.
Kostas, elaborate on that.
Okay, thank you. So I think that yes, I think it's a good point. That I wanted to add is that we shouldn't be too optimistic about the power of education at all. Because, one guy called Antoine Helvetius in the 18th century said that everyone is tabula rasa and you can teach people whatever you want and you can form there in any form you want. Yes, but this never happened, really. And it's like, that even our ability to teach critical thinking is a bit limited, because some people maybe could take it just very few aspect of critical thinking, maybe just some practical, and some maybe is not able to think critically at all. I don't know. That's surely we can say that in some countries situation is better, and in some countries situation is worse. I'd like to say that in Lithuania, for example, we can say that we have roughly about 30 persons. As it showed our presidential elections, yes, we have about 30 persons, people who participate in these elections without any degree of critical thinking. I mean these people who vote for some guys, yes, I wouldn't mention their names. And it seems that in United States of America the situation is even worse. And this doesn't directly depend on level of economical development or on level of like social welfare and so on. But yes, surely I would agree that to some degree things like welfare, like prosperity, good, and it makes impact on the spread of critical thinking.
Can I push back a little bit on that? Not to create a big controversy, but I know that there was a big study done in the UK last year, a meta-study looking into academics in the UK, so it was limited to the UK. But they found that those academics who had received critical thinking training were more creative and more successful in their academic studies and more successful overall. So we shouldn't give up either. I think you can teach critical thinking. And I want to say one more thing. Critical thinking sounds very dry and academic, but it's fun. critical thinking is really, really fun because you turn around something. You have a problem or a proposition, you turn it around and you look at it from different angles, and suddenly you learn something quite new and you realize that you have this aha moment. And if you get used to doing that, I think critical thinking starts not to become so hard as we have said that it is.
Ramunė, isn't Pontus too optimistic? I see you were raising eyebrows about how it's fun to be wrong, almost, you know, how it's fun to raise big questions or something like that. I think you want to demolish that, no?
I was thinking about Lithuania and our people. We have a lot of learned helplessness. And in order to engage in all the beautiful things that you were describing, you need to have a lot of confidence in yourself, in your thinking ability, in your importance, in your ability to change things. And that doesn't go well with learned helplessness. So I think it has to go along with increasing self-efficacy as well as skills.
Brigita, one of the main aspects of critical thinking is being open to new ideas, concepts and possibilities. There is a big emphasis to be a better critical thinker now. Can we expect that, I mean critical thinking, from politically, ideologically and religiously entrenched groups of people? Can we expect that from them?
I don't know. It's very hard, I think.
Anyone wants?
No, I'm talking too much.
Maybe I'm also talking too much. Well, you know, that it's quite hard to expect such things because if this group is already entrenched in any religious, ideological or whatever meaning, so it's very hard to push these people out from their like entrenched position, because then you speak something that comes in contrast with their belief. They experience this cognitive dissonance and they just become aggressive. So it's I would say that I'm not very optimistic about these groups.
No, I just want to agree with that, and I say it's not in their self-interest, right? If you are deeply religious and somebody wants to question the existence of God, then that's not something you as a religious person would encourage. You become angry and you defend your belief. And so I think, and also from fundamental, very, if you look at the political spectrum, if we look far to the right and far to the left, people tend to be more locked into their beliefs, and there it is harder. But the rest of us will have to try, I think.
Is it easy to change your mind and other minds?
We psychologists, we have this joke. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? One, but the light bulb needs to want to change. So that's the answer to your question. If the views are complementary, if they believing a theory makes you better, makes you superior, and argumentation against what you believe would take that superiority out of you, of course you're not inclined to believe, even though you might agree with the facts, but it makes you feel good to think that you have something that...
I will try maybe to elaborate on that too, because I want to, and I have a position to do. me as a chairman at Lithuanian Skeptikų organization, I'm very interested in different aspects of various groups such as new religious movements, esoteric groups, political groups, etc. And again and again and again, people asking Lithuanian skeptics, why are you not creating a new religious movement, a skeptical movement? Because people then tend to open up. They'll find the community to talk to. They have new topics. They feel welcomed and love-bombed. So that's a tricky question. So longer I think about that, the longer I think that logical statements and persuasion is not going to change anything in minds, but welcoming communities where people feel that they are, the people which feel that they are alive, that they are unique in some sense, we have anything to say or to be heard, that always breaks the walls very quickly, not the arguments, just my point of view. Brigita, again, I will try one more time, okay? You have worked with children in private schools where food, shelter, education, resources are definitely not the problem for these children. But are these children of wealthy parents better critical thinkers?
Vėl lietuviškai atsakysiu. Negaliu suabsoliutinti, nes mes vėlgi susidurėme su problemomis kitokiomis. Jeigu mes turime išdėstyti demokratiją pradinėse klasėse,
we couldn't generalize, because if we have to learn these children democracy from their first classes,
tai nebūtinai gali sutapti klausimai užduodami arba atsinešti vaikų į mokyklą, nebūtinai gali sutapti visų absoliučiai šeimų pozicija. Tarkim, kažkada atsinešė vaikai klausimą, ar tiesa, kad Trumpas sako, kad žmonės valgo šunis ir kates. Ir aš į tai atsakiau, o kaip jūs manote?
Some things children are bringing into school from their families, and one time Brigita got a question from the children's like, is it true that Donald Trump says that someone in America is eating cats and dogs?
Aš paklausiu, kaip jie mano.
And she asked, how do you think?
Nes būtent klausti vaikų ir yra mokymas kritiškai mąstyti. Taigi nepridedi savo pozicijos, bet klausi vaikų. Bet jeigu namuose yra kažkokia labai griežta pozicija, gali labai stipriai nukentėti vaikas, jeigu kiti vaikai sako, nesąmonė, tai aišku, kad žmonės nevalgo kačių. Bet tuo tarpu vaikui, kuris namuose yra sakoma, kad tai yra visiška tiesa, jis patiria kognityvinį disonansą. Kuo tikėti? Tada ar tuo, kas čia ir vyksta, ar tada tuo, kas namuose. Tuomet jisai patiria labai labai didelį psichologinį spaudimą.
So the main way of teaching this critical thinking is just asking these children, so what do you think? And then one more problem emerges, because usually these children their parents has some kind of weird political beliefs, and then in the same time other children are like beginning making jokes from this cats and dogs story, and the child suffers from this cognitive dissonance between things that he or she hears in home and things that are like children in class believe or not.
Taigi mes galime sakyti, kad na tai privačioje įstaigoje mes gal turime tėvus, kurie labiau rūpinasi, labiau stengiasi, sakykime, pagal galimybės pasirūpinti emocinę gerovę, bet tai nereiškia, kad viskas yra taip šviesu ir gražu ir visokių pozicijų mes turime. Ir vienas svarbiausias dalykas, mokytojas turi išlaikyti balansą tarp namų pozicijos ir, sakykime, demokratinės pozicijos, kuria valstybė vadovaujasi, tam, kad apsaugoti vaiką ir išmokyti jį mąstyti, bet pirmiausia, apsaugoti vaiką.
So the teacher comes in this ambiguous situation because have to hold this balance between democratic values that should be learned in school and these values of like not creating a conflict between child and her or his parents. Also, surely that in private schools, most children came from the families who has like more care about their future. They pay money for this school. They like giving more attention to this child, but this not guarantees nothing.
Ramunė, maybe you will want to elaborate on cognitive dissonance aspect, since you will pick up microphone. I mean, even it ties up with all questions here, mostly that there was a certain example of USA small community of New Age religious group which have 5 to 7 doomsday dates that actually none of them became an actual doomsday, but we keep on continuing to believe in their belief system. Does it illustrate the same thing about critical thinking? You know, maybe people don't want to engage in that because it will, shatter all my foundations or some of them, and you just simply avoid them. What do psychologists are saying about that?
I don't know how much that relates to cognitive dissonance in this question per se, but people tend to join those groups when they feel powerless, when they feel unsuccessful, and when they're looking for, in regular world, they're not having much success. So they're looking for alternative ways. Maybe there's an alternative truth in which I will be able to realize my potential and become important, become happy, because in regular society I'm not successful, I'm not rich, I'm not happy, I'm not important,
not valued,
not valued. So maybe if I believe some alternative truth, if I join a cult that believes in doomsday, if I believe that I'm the chosen one, and when the doomsday comes, everyone else who are now successful, they will die, but me and my group, we will persist and we will become valued and important, well, that's very tempting.
That's it, yeah, that's the promise.
That's what makes me believe in the second, third, fourth, and fifth. That's the potential that someday everyone will learn that I am important, I'm valued, I'm better, even though I can't show much evidence for that today.
Okay, I want to go to Pontus. We will finalize step by step this discussion. Please share, as a chairman of European skeptical organizations around whole Europe, what you could say skeptics can do, what we already done, the main things, and is there a future for such organizations, to be involved in that discourse and for sure on the impact of critical thinking education and making people better thinkers? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of things you can do, and there's also a lot of things that skeptical organizations are doing. And when you hear the term skeptic or skepticism, you think critical thinking, because it's almost synonymous. That's what it is, really. So what a lot of skeptical organizations do, both in Finland and in Sweden, but in many other countries as well, is that they award people or organizations for doing something really right, or pointing to organizations that do something very badly, or anti-vax propagators, things like that. So in Finland they have the hoo-ha prize for people or organizations that have done something really wrong, who have propagated something that is obviously false and illogical, non-rational. And then they have the Socrates Prize for people or organizations who have spread good thinking, good ways of spreading logic or other things. We have the same in Sweden. We have the translation is a little bit of a joke. We call it the confounder of the year, somebody who has confounded the public or misled the public the most during the past year. And we also have an award called the enlightener of the year, and that is actually accompanied to some money. You don't get the money for being misleading, but for doing something good, we can give them a little bit of money, and there's a prize ceremony, and it usually gets some attention in the media, and that is good, because that means that people hear about these issues like anti-vax or something positive, and things happening. The other things that we are doing is we have a magazine. We have in Sweden we have over 2,000 members. So they get the magazine and they spread the word as well. Some of us, including myself, sometimes get invited. We try to get invited to schools and talk to school children. I usually like to talk to students who are in secondary school, so that's 16, 17 years old or 18. But that's different, and that's just my preference, really, because I think that's very stimulating. These people, 16 to 18, they are basically adults, but they have almost zero experience of being adults. So they're very inquisitive. It's very easy to get a good dialogue going with them. They want to ask questions. How do you know this? What do you think about that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's very good. You get engaged people. So we try to do that, and that's what we should do. But I should say one thing, and this is all run by volunteers, non-profit organizations. But should it really be that? Should society really hand over that to, if some people want to do this very important job of monitoring what is fake news, what is conspiracy theories, what is alternative medicine claims that are obviously bogus? Should that really be left to people like me to do on their spare time, or should it be part of society as a whole to fight?
What our panelists think what we should do in Lithuania regarding critical thinking? Would it be psychological resilience, or would it be better social programs, better critical thinking programs? I don't know. So let's close with this question, okay? Ramunė?
I think that we shouldn't focus only on the cognitive aspects. We should also focus on the emotional aspects and building some trust in and building the want to utilize those cognitive abilities. I'm referring to what I was saying before about the learned helplessness, so empowering to use, because one is to teach how to do it, but if you get a lot of messages coming at you, don't do it, what's the point, who are you now, a thinker? Yeah. We do in Lithuania get a lot of messages like that.
Don't raise your nose, you know, you are a better thinker or something like that. We don't want to see that, yeah? Okay. What we should do here in Lithuania, Kostas?
Okay, I think that we have a quite unique situation for now, and I'd say that it's very promising to some sense, because I already mentioned this situation, like then this propaganda, then these conspiracy theories, and all this, sorry for my French, bullshit that comes in internet, social media, and so on. It creates a very clear dangers for existence of state. So in this case, the state institutions, at last, they are more and more interested in spreading these skills of critical thinking. So I think that we have quite a good possibility for now, and I think that skeptical organization could be also very useful, and maybe it's to have some kind of tactical union with state government institutions. Whatever is it good or bad, but we have such possibilities.
Brigita?
Tai aš gal pirmiausia, vis tik tai aš grįžtu prie mokytojų mokymų ir manau, kad stipriau turi būti mokytojai atrenkami. Vis tik tai ir, kaip ir minėjo, labai geras pastebėjimas nuo darželio. Mokytojai turi būti labai stiprus nuo darželio, apmokyti ir kritiškai mąstyti ir suvokti tą dalį, kad čia yra ateitis, mes negalime leisti savo duoti bet kam ugdyti mūsų ateities.
Brigita says that we should begin from the education system, and even from the very basics of education system, even from kindergartens, primary schools, and so on, because we couldn't give these missions to anyone. That it means that people who work with children should be educated in proper way.
Does anyone have any questions, please?
Okay, good. Sorry, I wrote a question here, and it's for Pontus, I believe. So I wrote, what tools are needed for teachers so that they could teach children critical thinking? Because you said teachers need tools, first of all. So what are those tools?
Well, maybe we should ask the psychologist here. So, because I'm not an expert in how to teach children things, but I do think that teachers do need books or exercises and things recommended to them. This is tests that you can do with your children to learn, to teach them how to think that, or to realize that things are not always what they seem. You can turn around a problem. I think your example from before with the different colored balls that is actually a good exercise, I think, because it teaches maths and statistical probability, but it also is a fun thing. If it's physical, you do it, and that is unusual. Normally you sit with a book or you read and so, but everything you can use, all methods you can use to teach things is good. There's a myth that we are either visual learners, auditory learners, readers, or tactile learners. Actually, what it seems to be, according to research, is that we all need all of that. And if you do something with many different ways of learning, then you learn better. So that kind of thing. Smarter people than me should develop methods to do that for kindergarten children, for primary schools, for secondary schools. I tend to go to the secondary schools because I can talk to them with fairly sophisticated words, so that suits me. But that's not how you do it for kindergarten children.
Brigita, what works for younger children? What works? What tools do teachers need to have to bring that critical thinking into the classroom, to support them to be able to do that, because not every single teacher is prepared for that, if I understood the question, yeah.
Aš teisingai suprantu, ką turi turėti mokytojai, kokius gebėjimus.
Taip.
Kokius įrankius. Ačiū. Aš kai kalbėjau visą laiką, kad mes turime stipriau mokyti. Mes negalime taip paprastai, kaip dabar mokom. Tai tuos instrumentus, pirmiausia, ir atranka, ne tik tai motyvacija turi būti, bet ir atranka į mokytojus turėtų būti stipresnė. Žodžiu, mokytojas, tas prestižinė profesija yra ne juokas. Jeigu tai būtų gerai parengta ir tai iš tiesų ištiesėta, tai būtų labai gerai mūsų ateičiai.
So we have to better select teachers, but I would confront that we already have such a lack of teachers. We don't have anything to choose. Everyone who wills to be a teacher will be accepted, because we have scarcity of teachers.
More money for education.
I will try to give an example, maybe, but it's more parenting stuff, not maybe teaching. I was amazed how just a couple of encyclopedias, despite that some facts are old, in them, but how it changed the lens, the width of the lens for children. So that's the tool, I think. So for when children have their own time, give them encyclopedias to just to look at. That would be my example. Ramunė, maybe you want something.
As it should be taught in the same way as we teach all other skills. So first of all, critical thinking needs to be broken down into functions. So we started this discussion with listing separate functions. Ability to compare, ability to analyze, ability to break down, ability this, and then build a curriculum how to build those functions bottom up, starting with the level of ability that the child might have. So we know that the higher level mental abilities, they are not that prevalent among 3-year-olds. They slowly arise, so new functions should be introduced at the pace when the child is developing. So initially it could start in very early kindergarten with describing what you saw and is this true or false, and then as the child grows and his ability to learn grows as well, these listed functions increase, and then when they reach about age 8-9, they can start monitoring their mentalization processes. Is this the right way of thinking? Am I doing it the right way? So the theory of mind one develops, and then you can introduce those things as well.
Sad news. I did a research on what it's done. So 10 years we are bringing up the question, but there are still no good tools. You can bet. Another question? You want? Kostas wants to react. Okay. Sorry.
I wanted to add briefly from my own experience that I think worked best for me, and where I got my basic skills in critical thinking was a teaching of geometry, because it was just only part of school curriculum in the Soviet times, where you should research something by yourself and prove it. So it was a very, very interesting part of it. And I think that such method is very important, and also introduction of basic methods of logic, because it works both for mathematics and it works for language, because language is also based on the same rules of logic, and maybe some lessons that would touch these questions of logic, of logical fallacies, and so on, because it's almost non-present not only in school curriculum, but even in universities. Not all programs has these basics of logic, of philosophy, and so on.
Any questions?
What impact do you think fairy tales and belief in Santa Claus has for children in critical thinking for children, let's say?
I can say I used Santa Claus as a tool to teach my children a lesson when they were small. So I taught them about Santa Claus, and traditions are different, but in Sweden you actually usually meet Santa Claus. You have somebody dressing up as Santa Claus. So they have actually seen Santa Claus. It took until they were 4 years old. Then they said, no, this is that person dressed up. And I said, no. And then they learned a lesson that also adults, your parents, can be wrong, or sometimes they lie to you. And if you do it the right way, as a game, as a fun exercise, and not making a fool out of them, making it as a sort of playful thing, then it can be useful. I think it worked well. They no longer believe in Santa Claus.
Ramunė, how that fantastical thinking and influence, magical made thinking impacts, children?
So I believe that stories not only need to be read, they need to be talked about. So not only tell the fairy tale, but discuss what happened. Is it real? Is it not? We have fairy tales age as well. When I read the fairy tales from my childhood to my kids, I need to do explaining. And it's a good exercise to do that explaining, that sometimes you will come across sexistic information, you'll come across all sorts of things that are untrue, and just because it's written doesn't make it true, and here's what we believe it, and that information can change, and things can age.
So that's it because we run out of time. Thank you for panels. Let's applaud them. Thank you very much. This was Lithuanian Skeptical Association's organized discussion. Support Lithuanian skeptics. Be good critical thinkers. If any questions after the discussion, please come and we will answer. See you soon. See ya.